Welcome to Quews.news. This is our special weekly bulletin where we talk about the stories shaping our world and give you insights to make sense of the global political landscape and help you to understand what is happening in Pakistan and around the world. These are our top stories for this week. Blinken underlines consistent U.S. engagement with Pakistan. Establishing offshore firms, no crime, says a Supreme Court judge while hearing the Jamaat-e-Islami plea on Panama Papers. No new taxes in the 14.5 trillion rupee budget for fiscal year 24 presented by Finance Minister Dar. Ex-US President Donald Trump indicted in classified documents probe. Trump seeks new trial in sex abuse case. And finally, Julian Assange close to extradition after the UK High Court's verdict, according to the RSF. And now the details. Blinken underlines consistent US engagement with Pakistan. The US Secretary of State Anthony Blinken has highlighted Washington's consistent engagement with all stakeholders in Pakistan, while also underlining significant concerns on issues like freedom of expression and political inclusion in a letter to lawmakers. Now, the letter was issued in response to another letter that more than 60 US lawmakers sent to Mr. Blinken on the 16th of May, urging him to use all the tools at his disposal to promote democracy and protect basic human rights in Pakistan. Now, the Secretary's response balances the need to maintain cordial relations with Pakistan's rulers without compromising on the US stance on human rights and democracy. And it does so very carefully, making sure that Washington does not appear to be taking sides in a dispute that many in the US Capitol believe is not about to end. Now, the letter informs the lawmakers that the Department of State firmly believes that a prosperous, democratic Pakistan that fully respects the rights of its citizens is critical to US interests. And now, moving on to our main story, we're going to be taking a deep dive into the budget that was just presented in the National Assembly of Pakistan, that is the budget for the fiscal year 2024. What's likely to get expensive and what's getting cheaper. The Finance Minister, Ishaq Dar, presented the budget for the fiscal year 23 and 24 on the floor of the National Assembly on Friday amid smooth proceedings with the opposition missing from the benches. Dar said that the government had set a modest growth target and, despite being an election year, presented a responsible and balanced budget and not a popular one. While the focus was on inflationary pressures, no new taxes rising in the minimum wage. Finance Minister announced that the government was imposing no new taxes for the upcoming year, and the minimum wage was being raised to 32,000 from 25,000, and the minimum pension was also being raised to 12,000. Furthermore, Dar announced that the government had decided to give a 35% ad hoc relief in the salaries of federal government employees from grade 1 to 16 and a 30% increase for grades 17 to 22. This was aimed at increasing their purchasing power, along with an increase in their pensions by about 17.5%. Now, apart from that, there's a list of some of the notable changes in taxes and duties introduced by the government in this new budget. Let's talk about that. Now, the dining out, going to restaurants, has been made easier, as Mr. Dar announced that in a bid to promote digital payments through debit and credit cards, mobile wallets or QR scanning at restaurants, the government has reduced the tax rate from 15 to 5%. Now, that means dining out has been made cheaper if one opts for electronic payment methods. Furthermore, solar has now been unlocked in line with the government's solarization initiative. The budget announced on an exemption on customs duty on the raw material used in the production of solar energy products. The exemption encompasses essential components such as inverters, solar panels, and batteries, marking a positive step towards promoting renewable energy in the country, as the costs of adopting solar energy are likely to go down for the average consumer. Moving along, the boost for the IT sector is also on the books. The 0.25% concessional rate of income tax will be intact until the 30th of June 2026. Moreover, freelancers earning up to $24,000 per year will also be exempt from sales tax registration and filing tax returns, while a single-page income tax return form will also be introduced for them. Additionally, the IT and IT-enabled service providers will be allowed to import duty-free software and hardware valuing 1% of their total export proceeds. Dar said that the IT sector was being given a status of an industry which would help in it availing concessional income tax rates. The government also reduced the sales tax rate from 15% to 5% for IT services. Vehicle imports. The budget proposes withdrawing of the capping of fixed duties and taxes on the import of old and used vehicles of the Asian markets above 1300 cc, which means that they can become more expensive now. The other notable exemptions, among other notable exemptions in the customs duties or relief in sales tax, the budget have been proposed. Now, these are exemptions of customs duties on raw materials of diapers and sanitary napkins, exemption of custom duties on the import of shrimp, prawns, juveniles for breeding in commercial fisheries and farms and hatcheries, the removal of regulatory duty on second-hand clothing, grant of exemption of sales tax on contraceptives and accessories, waiver of a 2% final withholding tax on the purchase of immovable property, and this will interest most overseas Pakistanis for non-residents, individual national identity card for overseas Pakistanis, Pakistan origin card holders, where immovable property is acquired through foreign remittances remitted from abroad, 10% reduction in tax liability or rupees 5 million, whichever is lower, for a builder, and 10% reduction of rupees 1 million, which is whichever one is lower for an individual to own a construction of a house for 3 years. Now, no notable levies. Conversely, there were some moves which are likely to hurt the common man's pocket. Withdrawal of exemption of sales tax on edible products sold in bulk under brand names or trademarks, the enhancement in reduced rate of sales tax from 12% to 15% on supplies made by point-of-sale retailers dealing in leather and textile products. Then furthermore, electric power transmission services are proposed to be taxed at 15%, reimposition of a 0.6% advance adjustable withholding tax on cash withdrawals for non-active taxpayers, an increase in withholding tax rate from 1% to 5% on the payment of, or rather to non-resident individuals through debit or credit cards or prepaid cards, then 2% to 10% increase for non-active taxpayers, the imposition of federal excise duty on energy inefficient fans at rupees 2,000 per fan and incandescent bulbs at rupees 20% of the value is proposed. Now, that's a lot to take into, and we hope that this budget is going to do the trick while the IMF is looking at Pakistan's economy like a hawk. We hope there won't be any further mini budgets to exasperate the people of Pakistan. Anyway, moving forward, the ex-US President Donald Trump has been indicted in classified documents probe. Donald Trump said on Thursday that he has been indicted over his handling of classified documents after leaving office. And the US ex-president's most serious legal threat yet, as a firestorm of criminal investigations imperils his bid for a second White House term. He said, and I quote, "The corrupt Biden administration has informed my attorneys that I have been indicted seemingly over the boxes hoax." Now, Trump wrote this on his Truth social media platform as he broke the bombshell news of a historic moment for the United States. The first time a sitting or former president or commander-in-chief has ever faced federal charges. Now, there was no immediate confirmation from the Justice Department regarding Mr. Trump's assertions. The Trump attorney Jim Trusty told CNN that his client has been indicted on 7 charges, including the willful retention of documents in violation of the Espionage Act, making false statements, obstruction of justice, and a count of conspiracy. Though the precise details of the charges were not immediately clear, people familiar with the matter told the New York Times that the conspiracy charge was related to the obstruction of justice. In his post, Trump, who is running for president again, said that he has summoned to the federal courthouse in Miami next Tuesday, the day before his 77th birthday, and said that, "I have never thought it possible that such a thing could happen to a former president of the United States." Now, his announcement came a day after the U.S. media said that federal prosecutors had informed the former president's lawyers that he is the target of a probe into his handling of classified documents. He was already the first former or sitting president to be charged with a crime, in his case over the election eve hush money payments to a porn star who said that she had had an affair with him. Now, the indictment was handed down by Manhattan's district attorney in March. In a statement after his initial online posts, the Trump campaign lashed out at what it called an unprecedented abuse of power and called for the indictment to be thrown out. Now, let's take a look at this.
This is a hugely significant development. It's the first time in American history that a former president has been indicted on federal charges, and it comes shortly on the heels of the first time in American history that a former president had been indicted on state charges. Well, if you lie to federal prosecutors, it doesn't matter if you're the former president of the United States. And that's actually, while this is a serious and somber occasion, it's actually an example of one of the positives of America: accountability to the rule of law, even at the highest levels. Now, does it mean that he can't run for president? No. We live in a country where, in the United States, rightly or wrongly, a convicted felon, even if he's convicted, can be elected president. He could even, in theory, serve as president while incarcerated.
Now, when asked about the charges on Thursday night, Smith's spokesperson Peter Carr told the AFP that we're declining to comment on these issues and mounting legal woes. Some Democratic lawmakers spoke out following Thursday's extraordinary revelation. Trump's indictment is another affirmation of the rule of law, according to House Democrat Adam Schiff. He said, for 4 years, he acted like he was above the law, but he should be treated like any other lawbreaker, and today he has been. And it seems Mr. Trump's woes just don't seem to end, and Mr. Trump seeks a new trial in the sex abuse case. Donald Trump on Thursday asked for a new trial in the civil case brought by E. Jean Carroll, in which a jury in Manhattan last month found the former U.S. president liable for sexually abusing and defaming the writer and awarded her $5 million in damages. Let's take a look at this report.
Closing arguments were heard for Donald Trump's civil rape trial, where former Elle magazine advice columnist E. Jean Carroll accused the ex-U.S. president of rape and defamation. A lawyer for Carroll argued on Monday that Trump's absence from the trial shows that, quote, he did it. Lawyer Mike Ferrero told jurors, quote, he never looked you in the eye and denied raping Miss Carroll, adding, quote, you should draw the conclusion that that's because he did it. 79-year-old Carroll sued 76-year-old Trump, alleging he raped her in a Manhattan department store in 1995 or 1996, and then defamed her by denying it happened in an October 2022 post on Trump's Truth Social platform. In that post, he called her claims a complete con job and a hoax and a lie. Trump waived his right to testify at trial and opted not to present a defense, gambling that jurors will find that Carroll failed to make a persuasive case. In his closing argument Monday, Trump's lawyer Joe Tacopina said Carroll's inability to recall the date of the alleged incident made it impossible for Trump to defend himself by citing an alibi, and called the case an affront to justice. This is an absolutely outrageous case, Tacopina said. 2 of Carroll's longtime friends had testified that she told them about the attack shortly after it occurred and said they believed her. Carroll, who was seen leaving the New York court, is seeking unspecified monetary damages. Her lawyer told jurors the lawsuit is not about the money, but about Carroll getting her name back. The 6-man, 3-woman jury is expected to begin deliberating on Tuesday.
Now, Julian Assange is close to extradition after the UK High Court's verdict. According to the RSF, Reporters Without Borders has expressed concern over the UK High Court's decision rejecting WikiLeaks publisher Julian Assange's appeal against his extradition orders. In a statement issued on Thursday, the RSF's Director of Campaigns, Rebecca Vincent, said that the court order has brought him dangerously close to being extradited to the United States, where he could face the rest of his life in prison for publishing leaked classified documents in 2010. A single judge, Justice Swift, rejected on Tuesday all 8 grounds of Assange's appeal against the extradition order signed by then UK Home Secretary Priti Patel in June 2022. This leaves only one final step in the UK courts, as the defense has 5 working days to submit an appeal of only 20 pages to a panel of 2 judges who will convene a public hearing. Now, the RSF said the historical weight of what happens next cannot be overstated. It is time to put a stop to this relentless targeting of Assange and act instead to protect journalism and press freedom. On our call, President Biden, now it's more urgent than ever. Drop these charges, close the case against Assange, and allow for his release without further delay. That was the statement made by Reporters Without Borders. And that's all from the news deck from Quews.news. Keep watching Quews.news for the latest and most important news shaping our world today. And on that note, it's goodbye.